Good day, everyone. I am Teacher Sheila, and you are at your English Hub. For today's session, we will be talking about sources of information. In our everyday lives, we always encounter with different information. And there are also various sources of information that we may use in our daily lives. So this information are very important in dealing with our daily lives. So this morning, we will be focusing our discussion on the three classifications of information, sources of information. Okay, so there are three classifications of sources of information. Okay, as what you can see, we have primary sources. We also have secondary sources, and the third one is we have the tertiary sources. So the question is, how do these three classifications of sources of information differ from each other? And that will be the focus of our discussion this morning. So let us start. Okay. When we say primary sources of information or primary source of information, these are sources of information which are authentic and have not been subjected to evaluation or assessment. These are also report discoveries, sharing of information, and first-hand. So when we say primary sources of information or primary source of information, it is a first-hand source of information. Meaning, this kind of information comes directly from the author or from the writer. Another one, when we say primary source of information, these are information written at a certain time or period of research. Okay, so let us have this one. Sources of information which are authentic and have not been subjected to evaluation or assessment. Okay, meaning when we say primary source of information, this is not yet evaluated or assessed by anybody. Okay, next, let us have the secondary source of information or secondary sources of information. These sources provide information or discussion and or interpretation of the evidence. Okay, meaning taken from the primary source but already discussed or interpreted by the author. These are usually evaluations of primary sources, okay, as what I have said before, and written by authors who do not personally witness the event or the action. Clear? So that is secondary sources of information. Let us have the third one, the tertiary sources of information. So when we say tertiary source of information, this is the collection of primary and secondary sources. Is it clear? So when we say tertiary source of information, it is the compilation. Okay, compilation of the primary and secondary source of information. So at this point of time, let us have a short activity, okay, in order for us to find out what are the examples of these three classifications of sources of information. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to identify the following given sources of information as primary, secondary, or tertiary source. So I will give you 5 seconds to think before revealing the correct answer. Okay, so let us start now. Let us have the first one. Speeches. Okay, so what classification, what do you think is the classification of speeches? Is it primary, secondary, or tertiary? Your time starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so let us have the correct answer. Speeches are primary source of information. Okay, it is first-hand, meaning written by the author or by the speaker itself. Next, let us have the second one. Almanac. Okay, almanac, is it primary, secondary, or tertiary? Your time starts 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, the correct answer is tertiary source of information. Almanac is the compilation of different information taken from primary, either from primary or secondary source. Next, let us have commentaries. Okay, from the root word comment. Okay, what do you think is the classification of this source of information? Is it primary, secondary, or tertiary? Okay, your time starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, commentaries are secondary sources of information. Okay, commentaries, meaning a primary source may be a speech is being critiqued or being commented or evaluated by somebody. Okay, so that is why it is a secondary source of information. Let us have the next one. Encyclopedias. Yan. So let us have encyclopedias. Okay, what do you think is the classification of encyclopedia or encyclopedias? Is it primary, secondary, or tertiary source of information? Your time starts in 1, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, the correct answer is tertiary source of information. Okay, just like almanac, encyclopedias are also compilation or collection of different information taken from primary or secondary source. Okay? Critics. Let's have critics. Is it primary, secondary, or tertiary? I think I already mentioned this. Okay? So your time starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, the correct answer is secondary source of information. Just like commentaries, when we say critics, we are evaluating a particular text or a particular source of information. So that is why it is secondary, okay? Because it is already written by somebody who is not around in that particular event. Okay, next. communication or letters. Okay, just like application letters, resignation letters, love letter. Okay, so what do you think is this the classification of this source of information? Is it primary, secondary, tertiary, or tertiary? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And if you get the correct answer, very good. It's a primary source of information because it is written personally by the writer. Okay? Let us have video recordings or photographs. Okay, video recordings or photographs. Primary, secondary, or tertiary. 5, 4, 3, 2, and it's a primary source of information. Okay? Next. History. Okay, so let us have history or history books. Primary, secondary, or tertiary? 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. The correct answer is secondary source. Okay, it was or it is written by the authors who are not present in that particular event or situation. Let us have directories. Directories, okay, telephone directories or whatever. Primary, secondary, or tertiary source of information. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. It's a tertiary source of information. Okay, compilation of primary and secondary sources. So that's all for today's session, and I hope that I will see you again on our next session. Thank you and bye-bye!